You only write something like this if your mind has been saturated in the narrative of Genesis 1 through 3. It's just saturated in Eden imagery, every single poem in the book of Psalms. Not on the words level, but like on a deep level of the poet's imagination. After we understand trees, humans, and the earth, then you can feel me when I ask you. But can you think of a story where humans are going to have a conflict with trees? Good evening. Happy after the Sabbath days and shalom, shalom. Welcome back. Study the Bible, not the sermon TV. This is Mehalak, the slow Genesis walkthrough. And I am Brother Nicodemus O. Smith. That's O. not B. Goon. No relation. But if this is your first time here, welcome to where we have come to understand strange Bible stories. If you move by something you see, hear, or read while you hear, please smash that like button, hit subscribe, and then slide on our notifications bell. Yeah, we took a couple weeks off. We had to get some things right and reconfigure, but I'm right back like I forgot my car key. So, we are finally at Genesis 2 verse 4, where it kicks off a different perspective on the creation. Chapter 2 is not part of a linear sequence of events. To keep it simple, chapter 1 is about a watery wasteland or a watery wilderness, while chapter 2 is about a barren land or barren wilderness. Like I said, different perspectives, and that's why we can pick it up with the creation of man, even though man was already created in chapter 1. So then, chapter 2, verse 5, and it says, "And every plant of the field before was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground, and breathed in his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." So I don't know if y'all can catch that. First, he speaks of plants before they were plants, because there was no rain and there was no man. So you got three problems here. And remember, we talking about symmetry. So we paying attention to the order, because chapter 1 taught us that our God is a God of order, and order is what gives things existence. Even in the order of the wordplay is some importance, as we can see in verse 6, where similar to days 1 through 6 in chapter 1, the Bible states a dilemma or the obstacle, and then in the same order, God solves the problem or moves the obstacle. In verse 6, the first problem was a lack of water. It's solved with a mist coming up to water the face of the whole ground, which would, of course, makes the plants grow. And now that plants are growing, we can work towards solving the second problem, which is there's no man to till the ground. And verse 6 ends with making man. And then we get the detail of how that happens in verse 7. Notice that all of these elements come from the earth. In chapter 1, the earth was pulled out of the water, but here from this perspective, the earth is a desert wasteland, and the water has to come up from out of the earth. And so the trees, the water, and the human all come from the earth. I'm like almost obsessed with this Torah study I've been on for the last couple of years. But every time I dip into the book of Psalms, since I've been studying the Torah, I realize why the Psalms is hard for a lot of us to read, and why it was hard for me to read. It's because the authors of each individual song, S-O-N-G, that I can think of have their minds saturated in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, particularly chapter 2. So all of the imagery and figurative language that is used, you kind of get the point without studying Genesis 2 too hard. But you might also miss the point, or only halfway get the point, if you don't realize that you cannot get into the depths of the Psalms without understanding that this is their frame of reference. Since I only got a few minutes here, let's look at Psalms chapter 1, the very first Psalter. And so the reason why it matters or is relevant to us in chapter 2, all the plants, the water, and the humans come out of the earth because we want to let that shape our understanding, right? And how we think, right? Mainly because that is what everybody else who wrote the Bible or studied the Bible did. They let it shape their understanding. They didn't come with their own understanding. So Psalms 1, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, his fruit in his season, leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Okay, so Psalms 1 introduces us to somebody who loves to just read the Hebrew Bible. And not just read the Bible, but he loves to meditate on it, which in Hebrew culture, meditate is to read aloud quietly to yourself, or to whisper, or to mutter and repeat it. And do that day and night. And you know, if somebody really gets the story in their heart and mind, you know what they like, right? They like a tree, but not just any tree. They like a tree planted by streams of water. And here's the thing, the tree bears eternal fruit. It's eternally green in all the produce. Humans water trees all right here. The water is the gift of divine life that makes possible two types of spin-offs of life. And both bear fruit in the land. Humans bear fruit through what they do, and trees bear fruit through what they grow. In the biblical imagination, people are like trees, and people are also likened to water or have their life source rooted in water. You only write something like this if your mind has been saturated in the narrative of Genesis 1 through 3. It's just saturated in Eden imagery, every single poem in the book of Psalms, but not on the words level, but like on a deep level of the poet's imagination. Eden imagery right here in the first poem. And just really quickly, after we understand trees, humans, and the earth, then you can feel me when I ask you, but can you think of a story where humans are going to have a conflict with trees? With a tree, at a tree, failure in relationship to the fruit of a tree? I'm just saying, that's the Garden of Eden, right? But don't get ahead of myself, right? We just started chapter 2. Take it easy. All right, check us out next week, and we're going to keep it going. All right, we're going to be planted right here in chapter 2. But for right now, we up.